Have you ever wondered why two people can want the exact same dream, pray the exact same prayers, work just as hard, yet one transforms their life while the other stays exactly where they started? The answer isn't hidden in how badly they want success. It's hidden in something far more powerful, something they carry within them every second of every day. Desire may open the door, but your vibration decides whether that door ever opens. Most people spend their lives believing that if they simply want something badly enough, life will eventually reward them. They believe that stronger desire will somehow attract greater opportunities, better relationships, more wealth, or lasting success. Yet if desire alone were enough, every dream would become reality. Every person who wished for a better life would already be living one. Every goal would already be accomplished. The truth is that desire is only the spark that starts the engine. It is not the fuel that keeps the journey moving. There is a deeper force working beneath every thought, every decision, and every result. That force is the emotional and mental state you consistently carry within yourself. Imagine planting two identical seeds in different environments. One grows in rich soil with sunlight, fresh water, and proper care. The other struggles in dry ground with little nourishment. The seeds possess the same potential, but their environments determine their outcomes. Your mind works in much the same way. Your goals are the seeds, but your dominant emotional state becomes the soil in which those goals either flourish or fade. If your inner world is filled with confidence, gratitude, calm expectation, and quiet certainty, your actions naturally become stronger, your choices become wiser, and your persistence becomes greater. If your inner world is dominated by fear, frustration, doubt, and impatience, even the strongest desire begins to weaken because every action is filtered through limitation. Many people unknowingly send conflicting messages to themselves every day. They say they want abundance but secretly expect disappointment. They dream about success while constantly rehearsing failure in their imagination. They speak about confidence while feeling unworthy deep inside. They hope for opportunities while expecting rejection before they even begin. The subconscious mind responds far more consistently to these repeated emotional patterns than to occasional wishes. It learns from repetition. It accepts what you repeatedly feel as familiar and gradually influences your attention, habits, and reactions to match that familiar state. Think about how often your emotions influence your decisions without your awareness. When you feel confident, you speak differently, you walk differently, you notice possibilities that once escaped your attention. Challenges appear manageable rather than overwhelming. Conversations become opportunities instead of threats. Your mind searches for solutions because it has already accepted the possibility of success. This is not magic. It is the natural consequence of an inner state directing outward behavior. Small changes in thinking create small changes in action, and small changes in action repeated consistently create extraordinary differences over time. The opposite is equally true. When fear becomes your dominant state, your attention narrows. You begin noticing only obstacles. You hesitate before taking action. You delay important decisions. You interpret neutral situations as negative ones. You protect yourself from imagined failure instead of moving toward meaningful growth. Eventually, you convince yourself that life is working against you, when in reality, your own expectations have quietly shaped the choices that produced your current circumstances. Your inner condition silently influences every conversation, every opportunity you pursue, every challenge you accept, and every habit you repeat. Long before the world responds to you, your own mind responds to the emotional patterns you practice every day. That is why temporary excitement cannot replace consistent mental conditioning. A single motivational moment may inspire action for a few hours, but a deeply rooted emotional state influences every hour of every day. The results you experience tomorrow are often reflections of the mindset you repeatedly practiced long before today arrived. This understanding changes everything because it shifts your focus away from chasing outcomes and toward transforming the person who creates those outcomes. Instead of asking why your dreams have not appeared, begin asking what emotional atmosphere you are creating within yourself. Instead of measuring the intensity of your desire, measure the consistency of your belief, your peace, your confidence, and your expectation. When your inner world becomes aligned with the life you seek, your decisions naturally begin moving in that direction. Your habits become more intentional. Your persistence grows stronger, and the future gradually starts reflecting the person you have already become inside. Every human being is constantly communicating with the world long before speaking a single word. This communication does not come from the voice alone. It comes from the thoughts that are repeated every day, the beliefs that quietly shape expectations, and the emotions that become so familiar they feel like part of your identity. Whether you realize it or not, you are always projecting an inner state that influences how you see opportunities, how you respond to challenges, and how others experience your presence. Your life is not simply responding to what you want, it is responding to who you repeatedly believe yourself to be. Many people try to change their future by changing their goals while leaving their identity untouched. They decide to become successful, confident, wealthy, or fulfilled, yet they continue seeing themselves as someone who is unlucky, overlooked, incapable, or undeserving. This creates an invisible conflict within the mind. One part reaches toward growth, while another clings to familiar limitations. No matter how inspiring the goal may be, the deeper identity usually wins because every decision naturally follows the story you believe about yourself. The subconscious always seeks consistency between your beliefs and your actions. If you believe you are capable, your actions begin confirming that belief. If you believe you are destined to fail, your actions quietly support that expectation even when you consciously desire something greater. Think about someone who genuinely believes they are confident. They do not spend every moment trying to prove their confidence. They naturally volunteer for opportunities, speak with conviction, recover from mistakes, and continue learning without allowing temporary setbacks to define them. Their behavior flows effortlessly because it matches their internal identity. Now consider someone who secretly believes they are inadequate. They may possess incredible talent, intelligence, and potential, yet they hesitate before acting. They overthink simple decisions, avoid meaningful risks, and interpret criticism as confirmation that they are not enough. The difference is not ability. The difference is identity. Your identity acts like an invisible blueprint directing every important choice you make. It influences the people you surround yourself with, the opportunities you pursue, the standards you accept, and the habits you repeat each day. When you repeatedly tell yourself that success belongs to other people, your mind searches for evidence to support that belief. When you begin seeing yourself as someone capable of growth, resilience, and achievement, your attention gradually shifts toward possibilities instead of obstacles. The external world has not changed overnight, but your perception has, and perception shapes action. This is why lasting transformation never begins with changing circumstances alone. It begins with changing the image you consistently hold of yourself. Every repeated thought becomes a brushstroke painting your self image. Every emotional reaction strengthens that picture. Every habit either reinforces the old identity or builds a new one. The person you become tomorrow is being shaped by the internal conversations you entertain today. If those conversations are filled with limitation, fear, and self criticism, they quietly construct a future that reflects those expectations. If those conversations are filled with purpose, discipline, gratitude, and possibility, they gradually build a stronger foundation for success. The remarkable truth is that identity is not fixed. It is formed through repetition, experience, and conscious choice. The mind accepts whatever is practiced consistently. When you repeatedly visualize yourself acting with confidence, making wise decisions, overcoming obstacles, and remaining calm under pressure, you begin creating familiarity with that version of yourself. As this image becomes more natural, your behavior starts aligning with it. You no longer act confidently because you are forcing yourself. You act confidently because confidence has become part of who you believe you are. Every day presents an opportunity to strengthen the identity that supports the future you desire. Your thoughts become beliefs. Your beliefs become expectations. Your expectations shape your actions. Your actions create your habits, and your habits eventually become your character. When you intentionally cultivate an identity rooted in growth, resilience, purpose, and unwavering belief, you stop chasing success as something outside yourself. Instead, you become the kind of person whose daily choices naturally create the results that once seemed distant, allowing your outer world to steadily reflect the powerful transformation that first began within. Everything that is created in the external world begins as something unseen. Before a building stands against the skyline, it exists as an idea in the mind of an architect. Before a masterpiece appears on a canvas, it first lives in the imagination of the artist. Before an athlete breaks a record, countless victories have already been rehearsed mentally before they are ever experienced physically. The same principle applies to your own life. Every meaningful transformation begins with an inner blueprint. The mind creates the direction, and your daily actions gradually give that direction physical form. This is why creative consciousness is far more than positive thinking. It is the deliberate process of building a clear mental image, strengthening it with emotion, and allowing that image to influence your behavior until it becomes reality. Many people underestimate the power of imagination because they mistake it for fantasy. They believe imagination is simply daydreaming or escaping from reality. In truth, imagination is one of the greatest creative tools available to the human mind. Every innovation, every invention, every business, every scientific discovery, and every remarkable achievement first appeared as an invisible possibility before becoming something tangible. The mind has the extraordinary ability to explore futures that do not yet exist. When this ability is used intentionally, it begins preparing the brain to recognize opportunities, solve problems, and make decisions that move life toward that imagined future. Your subconscious mind does not clearly separate vividly imagined experiences from repeated emotional experiences. When you consistently visualize yourself remaining calm during challenges, speaking with confidence, making wise decisions, and achieving meaningful goals, you begin creating familiarity with those experiences. What once felt uncertain gradually becomes natural. Instead of reacting with hesitation, you begin responding with confidence because your mind has already rehearsed success many times. Mental rehearsal reduces fear by replacing uncertainty with familiarity. The future no longer feels like unknown territory because your imagination has already traveled there repeatedly. This process also changes what you notice in everyday life. The human mind constantly filters enormous amounts of information, selecting only what seems important according to your dominant beliefs and expectations. When your attention is consumed by fear, doubt, and limitation, you naturally notice obstacles, criticism, and reasons to quit. When your imagination consistently focuses on growth, possibility, and purpose, your attention begins identifying solutions, supportive relationships, valuable ideas, and unexpected opportunities that may have been present all along. The world itself has not changed, but your awareness has expanded, allowing you to recognize possibilities that were previously invisible. Creative consciousness also transforms the quality of your actions. A person who repeatedly imagines success approaches work differently from someone who constantly expects failure. They prepare more thoroughly because they believe preparation matters. They communicate with greater certainty because they trust their ability to contribute. They recover more quickly from disappointment because temporary setbacks do not define the image they hold of themselves. Their imagination becomes a source of resilience rather than fear. Instead of allowing difficult circumstances to shape their identity, they allow their chosen identity to shape their response to difficult circumstances. Consistency is what gives this process its strength. A single moment of visualization cannot overcome years of habitual doubt. Just as physical strength develops through repeated exercise, mental strength develops through repeated conditioning. Every day, you intentionally picture your highest potential. Every day you connect that vision with gratitude and confidence, and every day you take actions that support it. You reinforce the connection between your inner world and your outer behavior. The subconscious gradually accepts this vision as familiar and begins influencing countless small decisions that move you closer to it. The greatest mistake is waiting for external proof before changing your internal state. Lasting transformation works in the opposite direction. You first cultivate clarity, belief, emotional stability, and purposeful imagination within yourself. From that foundation come better choices, stronger habits, greater persistence, and a willingness to act even when immediate results are not visible. Over time, those consistent actions accumulate into visible achievements, making it clear that every meaningful success was first constructed in the quiet workshop of the mind before it ever appeared in the world for others to see. Many people believe that failure is the greatest obstacle standing between them and the life they desire. They spend years trying to avoid mistakes, fearing rejection, and worrying that one wrong decision will permanently destroy their chances of success. Yet, failure is rarely the force that keeps people from reaching their potential. In fact, many of the world's greatest achievements were built upon countless setbacks, disappointments, and unexpected detours. The real obstacle is not failure itself, but the fear and doubt that take root afterward. Failure is an event that lasts for a moment, but fear can become a habit that silently influences every thought, every decision, and every opportunity long after the event has passed. Fear has a unique way of shrinking your world without announcing its arrival. It does not usually begin with dramatic changes. Instead, it whispers small suggestions that seem reasonable at first. It tells you to wait until you feel more prepared. It encourages you to postpone important conversations. It convinces you that someone else is more qualified, more talented, or more deserving. It persuades you to stay where everything feels familiar because familiarity appears safer than uncertainty. These quiet thoughts seem harmless individually, but over time they accumulate into a pattern of hesitation that limits growth far more than any external obstacle ever could. Doubt works in much the same way. It questions your abilities even after you have proven yourself capable. It causes you to focus on what might go wrong instead of what could go right. It magnifies weaknesses while ignoring strengths. It encourages comparison with others rather than appreciation of your own progress. The more attention you give these thoughts, the more convincing they become. Eventually, doubt begins shaping your identity, causing you to see yourself through the lens of limitation instead of possibility. Once that happens, your actions naturally become smaller because people rarely act beyond the boundaries of what they believe is possible for themselves. Consider how differently two people can respond to the exact same setback. One person views the experience as evidence that they are incapable and decides to stop trying altogether. The other sees the setback as valuable feedback, adjusts their approach, learns from the experience, and continues moving forward. The circumstances were identical, but the interpretation created completely different futures. This is because the meaning you assign to an experience often has a greater impact than the experience itself. When your mind interprets challenges as opportunities for growth, obstacles become teachers rather than permanent barriers. Fear also affects the body in subtle ways. It creates tension, reduces focus, and encourages impulsive reactions instead of thoughtful decisions. Instead of observing situations with clarity, the mind becomes occupied with imagined problems that may never occur. Energy that could have been invested in creativity, learning, or meaningful action is consumed by endless mental rehearsals of failure. This constant anticipation of negative outcomes gradually becomes familiar, making it more difficult to recognize opportunities that require courage and confidence. The good news is that fear loses much of its influence when it is met with conscious awareness and purposeful action. Courage does not require the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to move forward despite uncertainty. Every time you take a meaningful step, even while feeling uncomfortable, you teach your subconscious that progress is possible. Each small victory weakens old patterns of hesitation and strengthens new patterns of confidence. Over time, what once felt intimidating begins to feel natural because repeated action creates familiarity, and familiarity reduces fear. Confidence is not something that suddenly appears after achieving success. It is developed by consistently acting in harmony with your highest values, even when immediate results are invisible. Every challenge you face becomes an opportunity to strengthen your character instead of weakening your spirit. Every setback becomes a lesson instead of a life sentence. As fear and doubt gradually lose their control over your thinking, your attention shifts towards solutions. Your actions become more decisive, and your inner state becomes increasingly aligned with growth, resilience, and possibility, allowing your future to be shaped not by the limits you once imagined, but by the strength you chose to cultivate within yourself. The quality of your life is shaped far less by the occasional moments that inspire you than by the daily habits that quietly condition your mind. Many people wait for motivation before taking action. They believe they must first feel inspired, energized, or confident before they can begin changing their lives. Yet motivation is unpredictable. It rises and falls with circumstances, emotions, and temporary excitement. Mental conditioning, on the other hand, creates stability. It teaches your mind to remain focused even when emotions fluctuate. The person who consistently trains their inner world develops a strength that does not depend on perfect conditions. Instead of allowing circumstances to control their state of mind, they learn to choose the thoughts and emotions that support the future they wish to create. Every morning presents an opportunity to establish the emotional direction of your day. Before the world demands your attention, before messages, responsibilities, and distractions begin competing for your focus, there is a brief window during which your mind is especially receptive. What you repeatedly think and feel during these quiet moments gradually becomes the emotional foundation upon which the rest of the day is built. If you begin with worry, frustration, and mental chaos, those emotions often continue influencing your decisions. If you begin with gratitude, clarity, calmness, and purpose, your mind becomes more resilient when challenges inevitably appear. The difference is not the absence of problems, but the presence of a stronger internal foundation. Visualization is one of the most effective ways to strengthen this foundation. Spend a few moments each day creating a vivid mental picture of yourself living according to your highest potential. Imagine yourself speaking with confidence, remaining calm under pressure, solving problems creatively, and responding to difficulties with patience rather than panic. Do not simply watch these scenes as though they belong to someone else. Experience them as if they are already becoming familiar. Notice the emotions associated with success, peace, and certainty. The subconscious learns through repetition and emotional intensity. The more often you rehearse empowering experiences mentally, the more natural they begin to feel when similar situations arise in real life. Another powerful practice is becoming aware of your internal dialogue. Every person carries on an ongoing conversation within their own mind. Sometimes that conversation encourages growth, while at other times it quietly reinforces limitation. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you are incapable, unlucky, or destined to struggle, your subconscious gradually accepts those statements as instructions. If instead you intentionally replace those patterns with thoughts rooted in confidence, gratitude, resilience, and possibility, you begin creating a healthier mental environment. This does not mean ignoring challenges or pretending difficulties do not exist. It means choosing thoughts that empower constructive action instead of reinforcing helplessness. Gratitude is another essential part of daily conditioning because it changes what your mind naturally notices. A mind trained to appreciate progress becomes more aware of opportunities, supportive relationships, valuable lessons, and unexpected blessings. A mind trained to focus only on what is missing often overlooks resources that are already available. Gratitude expands awareness. It reminds you that growth is already occurring, even if the final destination has not yet been reached. This emotional shift creates greater optimism, patience, and persistence because your attention is no longer consumed by constant dissatisfaction. Breathing with intention also plays an important role in maintaining a higher mental state. Slow, controlled breathing helps calm emotional reactions and allows clearer thinking during stressful moments. Instead of immediately reacting to fear, anger, or frustration, you create a brief space in which wisdom can guide your response. That small pause often determines whether you strengthen old habits of limitation or reinforce new habits of confidence and self control. Over time, this simple practice improves emotional resilience and helps maintain inner balance regardless of changing circumstances. The greatest transformation occurs when these practices become part of your daily life rather than occasional exercises. Mental conditioning is not about seeking perfection or expecting instant results. It is about patiently strengthening the patterns that support the person you are becoming. Each visualization, each grateful thought, each encouraging inner conversation, each calm breath, and each intentional action contributes to a stronger foundation within your subconscious. As these habits become consistent, your thoughts grow clearer, your emotions become steadier, your decisions become wiser, and your actions begin reflecting the powerful inner alignment that quietly shapes every lasting success. One of the greatest misunderstandings about success is the belief that external results must appear before you begin thinking, feeling, and behaving like the person you want to become. Many people tell themselves they will become confident after they achieve success, disciplined after they find motivation, grateful after they gain abundance, or peaceful after life finally becomes easy. This way of thinking places your inner transformation at the mercy of external circumstances. It gives the outside world complete control over your emotional state. Yet lasting change follows a very different path. The person you wish to become must first exist within your thoughts, your emotions, your decisions, and your daily habits long before the visible evidence arrives. Imagine a skilled architect preparing to construct an extraordinary building. The structure does not appear randomly. Every measurement, every detail, and every design choice is carefully planned before the first brick is placed. If the blueprint is flawed, the building will eventually reveal those weaknesses. Your life follows the same principle. Your identity is the blueprint, while your daily actions are the construction process. If you continue thinking like the person you used to be while expecting a completely different future, you create conflict between your vision and your behavior. The outer structure can only become as strong as the inner design supporting it. Becoming the person before the results appear requires a conscious decision to align your actions with your future rather than your past. Ask yourself how the strongest version of you would respond to today's challenges. How would that person speak during difficult conversations? How would they spend their morning? How would they react to criticism, setbacks, or unexpected obstacles? These questions shift your attention away from temporary emotions and toward intentional behavior. Instead of asking what you feel like doing, you begin asking what the person you are becoming would choose to do. This simple change gradually transforms ordinary moments into opportunities for personal growth. Every small decision strengthens either your old identity or your new one. Choosing to remain calm during a stressful situation reinforces emotional stability. Keeping a promise to yourself strengthens self respect. Continuing to work, even when enthusiasm fades, develops discipline. Speaking with honesty, even when it is uncomfortable, builds integrity. Showing kindness, despite disappointment, cultivates emotional maturity. None of these actions may seem extraordinary on their own, yet together they create a powerful pattern. Character is not formed during rare moments of greatness. It is built through consistent choices, repeated long before anyone notices the results. Patience becomes essential during this process because external change rarely happens as quickly as internal change. There may be days when your efforts seem invisible. You may continue practicing positive habits without immediate rewards. Old doubts may occasionally return, tempting you to believe nothing is changing. During these moments, remember that every meaningful transformation develops beneath the surface before becoming visible. Just as a tree spends months strengthening its roots before reaching impressive heights, your mind is quietly strengthening new patterns every time you choose growth over comfort, courage over fear, and purpose over distraction. The roots of success are always established before the fruits become visible.